Good afternoon. We're just allowing few minutes for everybody to join us, and the session will start. Whilst everybody join us, I hope you're feeling as calm as possible and you're caring for your sanity, because I think that's the biggest test that we're going through at the moment is a test to our sanity. So I hope you're caring for that because we know we are safe, or as safe as one can be in a situation like what we are living in. We'll allow for 2 more minutes, 3 more minutes past the hour to allow everybody to join us. I have to say, we were not expecting so many to join us, but it just shows how important it is to be reminded of a simple four-letter word, which is called calm. Sometimes is much more difficult than one can think. Nice to see so many of our advisory board members here. So thank you very much for joining us. And some great new names. I hope you will always be part of our community. So we hope we'll see you in much better events in the future. 1 more minute, Jean, and then we start. Mark, is that okay with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. And I think with that we can start, and then the rest. We already have 85 with us. So welcome everyone, and good afternoon to you, and thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. We know that the past days have been extremely challenging and heavy for our region and our industry. The level of uncertainty, the constant and sometimes conflicting flow of news, and the pressure of leading teams while trying to keep our own sanity can feel overwhelming. Whilst we cannot control what we have no control over, except being united in our prayers that this is over soon, HSMAI, along with our partners at Summit Education and Glion, felt it was important to create just a moment for our community to pause, breathe, connect, and hopefully learn a few practical ways to navigate these moments with calm and clarity. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce our speaker, Mark Hardie. Mark has spent more than 30 years working in some of the world's most demanding environments, from elite military operation to advising leaders and organizations on how to perform under pressure and navigate through uncertainties. He is the author of Think Like a Marine, co-creator of Reset Approach, and a visiting professor at Glion Institute of Higher Education, where he teaches leadership in uncertain times. His work focuses on people and teams remain calm, grounded, and capable when is at its highest. I don't think it can get any higher for us at the moment. Honestly, I cannot think of a more relevant voice to be with us today as we start week 3 of this madness. Mark, thank you very much for being with us, and I'll now pass it over to you. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mona. Hello, everybody. There's not a lot I can say to you right now about how to lead under pressure because you're doing it and you've been doing it every day. for the last 2 weeks. And I'm not here to give you platitudes and tell you anything you don't already know. I think today what I'm really looking at is trying to make sure that you understand that you've got this far and you are going through it and you are on a journey. And when I talk to my students who are from all over the world about hospitality, especially, is hospitality exists originally because the journey was difficult. And so, because the journey was difficult, you would be welcomed in and looked after on the journey. And you are on this journey now. And the most important thing I think about HSMAI as well, and what Mona and the team are doing, is this is a community. And whilst it feels heavy now, communities share the load. So it's really important that you share what is working for you and what is going well, but also share how you're feeling in a way that allows you to at least lighten some of the load, but also start to think a little more clearly. And what I always talk about is in times like this, it's very difficult to find the space to think clearly. But as humans, we have this amazing power. We have this amazing power to create a gap between what is going on and how we respond. Sometimes that's really difficult. So part of what I'm going to talk about today is just how do we make that a little easier? And really, it starts within. I'm not really going to talk too much about VUCA, which is just a terminology for volatile uncertainty and ambiguous situations. I'll talk a little bit about how to ideally improve your decisions and how you make decisions at the moment. And then I'm going to talk about some routines, teamwork, and communication. Tools. But I'll go back to this. You are living this now, right now. And you are the heroes of this story. So no idea, concept, plan, piece of software, or artificial intelligence can be a hero. Only people can. Only you can. So if you're looking for certainty in a time of uncertainty, you've got to look within. And my little model I use is work on the individual. Individual plus the team, plus the systems you use will lead to excellence. And think about excellence as just striving to be the best you can be. In situations like this, you have to think about who you are at your best and find a way to access that. So you all carry your own superhero within you. And you've got to find that hero sometimes, and it's hard. But if you're a leader, people are looking to you. And if you're part of a team, you're all trying to help each other. And we don't get through this alone. That's the whole point. We don't get through this alone. We get through it by accessing the community and accessing the tools that we can all share. I think this is a really important quote. We don't see things as they are. We see them as we are. So when I talk about calm is contagious, if we can find the space for clear thinking and to just calm our mind in the face of events, then we see things differently. And we all know that when we are under pressure, when we're angry, when we're scared, we see the world as an angry and scared person. And that doesn't help us. I think we're going to do a mentor, aren't we, Gerastine?
Yes, let's capture
If we do that
some
now,
sentiments.
so I'd just like if everyone can share how you are feeling right now. So let's just share how we are seeing the world right now in this moment.
Just scan the QR code and you will access the Menti. And we just have few questions for you so we can capture your sentiments as you feel them today. So question number one, Gerastine, can we go to the question number one? If you are to describe how you feel right now, describe it in a single word. What would that be? Okay, I guess we have a lot of common feelings amongst us, and it all goes around we can't control what we have no control over, except we can control how we act towards it, which takes us to our second question, Jerestine. When uncertainty hits your operation, your first instinct is to. Due to our large number, the session is set as a webinar. So please, if you have any queries, just use the Q&A and we'll be able to pick up your questions and attend to them immediately. I think we have the answers for that. I see that out of our total audience, only 83 have accessed the Menti when we actually have 130 in attendance. So I hope you're not having any technical issues with accessing the Menti. Okay, and the response would be, what's the cumulative response for that? Let's have a look. Gather information before making any moves, absolutely, and focus on what I can control and act fast. Okay, and our last question to gather your sentiments so Mark really understands the audience he is with today. What are the top three things you are actively doing today to lead better? But that's for you as what are you doing to make you lead better? Excellent. And for those that have pets, they know that the pets is the best de-stressor in the world. You know, in Corona, so many people ended up with pets, and I think it's wave number two now for pet lovers. See? You know which answer is mine. Business continuity plans and lots of forecasting, reforecasting, scenario management, planning. They are all part of day-to-day life. But breathing is important, and so is the gym and walking. I see a lot of beach and calm. Okay, I think do you have enough sentiments, Mark?
Absolutely. And I think what is really interesting to me and should be really powerful for all of you, that from that first question, where the answers were that the most responses were uncertain, anxious, how are you feeling right now, to your responses to question 2 and 3, which is, and this is what I'm doing about it, tells me exactly what I already knew, which is you are doing everything right. Okay, you are in the fight and you're doing everything right. It's really important that you understand that when we look at those responses, it's really powerful to me, and that will help me now go through what we're talking about. So yes, how you are feeling is really important. It's important to name that. It's important to say it out loud sometimes. I am feeling this. But that should not change what you do. It just means you do the thing with that feeling. Okay. So from what you've described in your answers, not just going to the gym, but communicating, looking after yourself, managing your information, managing your inputs, as in filtering out the noise to what is the most important information for you to make good business decisions, to make good leadership decisions, to make good human decisions, not just for you, but for your families, for your teams at work, and also for your community. And I include this whole community of us being online now. So that was a really powerful tool. Thank you, Geraldine, for that. I think that's hopefully that's helped everybody understand that you are all in this together, but you are all doing things in a way that is working for you. So that makes this slide very easy. When I talk about discipline with the students on my courses, discipline comes from the Latin to teach, not to punish. Okay, so when you discipline someone, you are teaching them to improve. The start point for where we are in discipline is to accept reality. You can't discipline someone if they don't accept the reality of where they are right now. And there's 3 pillars that I like to talk about when I talk about discipline. They come from someone called Phil Stutz. He's an American psychiatrist. Pillar 1 is your foundation, your absolute foundation for your daily discipline. This is structural discipline. These are daily routines that you do as a matter of course. And you might have a little habit of how you get up in the morning or how you go to bed at night, but your routine for when that alarm clock goes off to getting up and doing either some yoga or some movement or walking or taking the dog, that is structure. Even if you have the same breakfast every day, that's structure. What you do then is that structure gives you time to think about other things. Because you do it every day as a habit, you have the cognitive space to actually think about the day. So if you haven't or don't have any kind of structure to your morning routines, I would say just start doing one thing now that will help with that structure. What those structures do is they preserve mental energy for critical tasks. So you're not constantly thinking, what am I going to do today? What am I going to wear today? How's today going to go? Okay. And at the very least, really, even in times like this, the times you control the most are the 30 minutes before you go to bed and the 30 minutes after you get up. Because if you've got family, you've got work, you've got feeding, you've got exercise to do, you don't really have a lot of time for yourself. So putting that structure in place is really, really powerful. And it would not surprise me if nearly everyone on the call already has something like that in place. Okay, if you look at the hospitality industry, from clearing down at the end of an evening in a restaurant or a bar, clearing down, ending the day completely so that you start the next day from zero, that's structure. That allows us to keep going. Pillar 2 is how we respond to situations, our reactive discipline. That is doing our best to remain composed, solution orientated during a crisis, and avoiding blame. Okay, blame fixes nothing. And as we go through this, we can either learn and improve, or we can blame and punish, but we can't do both. And the idea really I always focus on is learning and improving is absolutely vital. Vital as in the stuff of life. And then pillar 3 is expansive discipline. So in this situation, if you have good structures in place, good responses in place, then you can see vulnerabilities and failures quickly and use those to expand into the challenge and into the problem and keep working the problem. It's a horrible thing to say, but there is no growth in comfort. Okay, when we choose comfort over growth, that is us choosing to step backwards instead of step forwards into the problem. I know you're all doing this now. It sounds like platitudes, but really these three types of discipline are really powerful for helping you get through. And sometimes it's just naming them, being able to understand that. Actually, I think a lot of you will say, well, I already do this. I already have these structures in place. It's you recognizing that you have got what you need to get through this. Okay, you are carrying everything you need to get through this within. When I talk about capacity, our capacity is really important. And these are the foundations of structural discipline. When we talk about any kind of operations or any kind of situation where we need people at their best, and normally most people only think, well, we only need people at their best for sports, Formula One, you need the driver at their best, you need the team at their best, but actually all of us need to be at our best as much as possible. These 6 interconnected pillars are vital. Everything counts now, especially at the moment, everything. Sleep is the most important one. If you can't get it all through the night, the power of a nap, 20 minutes, 15 minutes here and there is a game changer. But remember this, sleep is the bridge between despair and hope. So if your sleep is disrupted, you will start to feel life will start to feel more difficult. So any way you can manage your sleep better is worth doing. What you eat is really important at the moment too. Okay, what you eat and when you eat will affect how you sleep. When we talk about exercise, going to the gym, taking the dog out, these 3 pillars here, movement, breathing, focus, okay, you can combine all 3 of those in one type of exercise, whether it's yoga, whether it's Pilates, even golf, okay? Golf has an element of movement, breathing to apply good techniques to the shot, and focus to hit the ball on time, okay? But if you can find something that combines all 3, even for half an hour a day, that will give you the cognitive space to be more creative. When I talk about the reset approach, and it's rest as well, we have active rest, where you are away from the business but still thinking about it, just in a more dialed down way. Then actual rest, which is your sleep and your time away from it. And then also what is called random episodic silent thought, which is when you take a break from focusing on the problems you're facing, a proper break where you are doing something else, where your brain is concentrating on something else, whether that's golf, whether that is some other activity, whether that's just being with your family, the breakthrough creative light bulb moment will appear. And we've all had them, that light bulb moment where it goes, this is what I need to do. If all you do is focus on work, you will lose that creative strength. Okay. And it's hard, but this is vital. Sleep, nutrition, movement, breathing, focus, relationships especially. If you can find an exercise or some kind of movement with someone else, then again, that's going to help you too, because at least you're communicating as you're moving. And the movement and the breathing and the focus is critical. But relationships are important too now. Under pressure, relationships that are already strained get more strained. But you've got to recognize that this is a difficult time and accept the reality of it, but try and move forward together. You cannot project calm if your physical and psychological capacity is depleted. What you need now is to maintain your capacity to respond. And these are the 6 areas where you will get all of that capacity. Talk about this now, okay? 3 circles. Even as a leader, the only person you really control is yourself. You can have 150 people, 3,000 people in your business, but actually the only person you control is you. You can influence your team and lead your team, but they make their own choices. And ideally they make their own choices because they want to support you and they want to support the organization. So how do you get, in times like this, how do you get your team to support the organization is you've got to find meaning. You've got to make the work you're doing now, tomorrow, next week, you've got to have meaning. If you can find meaning in the work you're doing, then for want of a better word, the suffering is worth it. Okay? When we find something meaningful, family, our work, our organization, we are willing to suffer for it. We are willing to put ourselves under pressure to make that organization, to make that relationship, to make that family work. Okay, because we care, because it has meaning. So if you can find meaning in what is going on now, meaning for your business, meaning for your family, meaning for your friends, meaning for your community, this whole community online now, meaning for your country and the future, then everything you do will have worth and carry weight. What we do also need to realize, though, is that events, things that are going on in the world, are outside of our control. And this is where the source of the worry and the anxiety and the uncertainty comes from. We're not in control of what's going on at the moment, others are. So we don't know what happens next, and that brings the uncertainty. And this is why most overthinking takes place outside of our control. And that's why I always say, even in the face of uncertainty, come back to yourself, get everyone in your team to come back to themselves, and together work the problem. And you work the problem by learning, constantly learning about what is going on, constantly learning about the impact it's having, and just paying attention to the data, the information, and filtering it correctly. Then anticipating what you could do, thinking ahead, and not just anticipating the positive outcomes, but also anticipating, the worst case outcomes. Why could this thing happen that would be the worst case? And then you can actually start to look for the signs of that happening in advance. That's what I mean about anticipating. And if you're anticipating, then you are able to adapt in real time. And if you don't adapt, the problem you're facing will always win. It's that simple. We face problems every day, whether it's driving to work and there being roadworks or a traffic accident. We then adapt our route. So if we don't adapt, the problem wins. If we look at the research, if we look at organizations over the years, why do competent organizations fail in the face of this volatile, uncertain, ambiguous, changing world? And again, we go back to there's three reasons, really. They fail to learn. They fail to learn in the face of the information that's happening. They fail to anticipate future states, and they fail to adapt. In the face of not learning and not anticipating, a company can still adapt to get out of the problem. But normally they learn quite late that they need to do that. If they fail to do all three, then it's very difficult for them to survive without outside help. Okay? And that's the challenge. We've got to constantly be learning and improving, anticipating, and be ready to adapt. And readiness individually, readiness as a team, comes back to how physically, psychologically ready am I? Am I rested? Have I eaten? Have I had water? Are my team, do I have a good relationship with my team? Do they trust me? Trust is important. Trust goes up when expectations are met, and trust goes down when expectations are not met. And that trust is, does my team know that I have their best interests at heart? And the only way to show that is to show them by leading them. So some tools now, very, very simple tools that you can use today. I'm going to start with decision-making, some tools to make decision-making and communication easier. In an operational environment like this, and let's face it, this is operational now for you. The uncertainty makes it operational. The changing situation makes it operational. What will fail under pressure is optimism, this constant, everything will be fine next week. Just relax and breathe. We just need to work harder and we'll get through this. That is not really accepting reality under pressure. What you need is operational reassurance. Okay? And this is scalable. And that is about really being brutally honest with the reality of your current situation. Here is what we know, and here is what we do not know. Here is our immediate next step. And then also being able to say and know in yourself that you have the physical and mental capacity to handle this. Sometimes that might be as easy as saying, I'm going to go and get 30 minutes sleep before I make this decision. That's allowed. Okay, if you are recognizing that you are sleep deprived, the quality of your decisions will diminish. So this is one model to help you keep adapting. It's based on a model called the OODA framework by an American called John Boyd. For me, this is one of the most powerful tools for decision making, especially in situations like this. And Boyd he studied everything. He studied Eastern philosophy and religions. He studied Western philosophy and religions. He studied calculus. He studied maths. He studied, I mean, he was an amazing polymath. And at the end of his life's work, he wrote this in about 1997 and said, I think it's something like this. And it's really interesting for me. The observations are sensory. We are humans. We are sense makers. We receive information and we try and make sense of it. And it's visual information, it's data, it's sounds, it's smells, it's human interaction. That comes in and our senses adapt. So when we say, how are you feeling about the current situation? That is a sensory observation. When you put the words in, uncertain, anxious, that is your sensory input as a human being. The next phase is we feed that forward to orientate. And if I look at the other two slides, what are you doing? What activities are you doing to help you get through this? That is the orientation phase, where you'd look to your team and how are they feeling and what inputs do they have, because they are sensing it differently to you. And that's important. The orientation phase is the engine. And it comes from everything. It comes from our parents. It comes from our background, our education, our belief, our faith. All of that comes in, and everyone is different. And that's the most important and powerful thing for creativity. That orientation allows you to decide. And that decision, especially at the moment, is just an idea. It's a hypothesis, almost like a scientist trying something for the first time. We decide to do something, then we take action, and then we watch carefully what happens. The most dangerous thing to be as a leader right now is to think that what you need to be is decisive and make a decision and then walk away from it and leave your team to deal with the results. If you make a decision in the current environment, you need to stick around to see what happens, because the action will give you information. And then you feed it all the way through the loop again. And there's no way out of this loop. You keep cycling through it and you keep your team cycling through it over and over again. And you can do it at different speeds and tempos. But the important thing is you can't escape it, especially now. You keep using what you are sensing and feeling, what your team are sensing and feeling. You make decisions as a test. The action is the feedback. And you need to be there to receive the feedback to improve the decisions and keep moving forward. In terms of communicating, for you and your teams, this is one of the most simple frameworks I've heard. What do I know? Who needs to know? Have I told them? At the very least, especially on business operations, what do I know? Who needs to know? Have I told them? That is the simplest framework I've got. But I do have 3 others. 2 of them, the TIP framework, the GPS framework for everyday normal communication. The purpose of the TIP framework is quick framing of the conversation, one-to-one briefings, and the key output is the clarity of intent. So this will allow you and your teams to communicate really effectively and get the information across quickly. The GPS framework is about summarizing complex situations. You can use them in strategic team meetings. It's really good for problem resolution. And then the STICK framework is good for operational delegation and proper crisis. And top-down execution, where you need to give clear directions to what is going to happen. And that allows you to execute effectively. The TIP framework is very simple. It's from Chris Fenning, who wrote an excellent book called The First Minute. And it's literally this structure. You give your teams this structure for how they communicate with you by email, by WhatsApp, whatever tool you are using. They can craft their message to you like this: topic. And it might just be, can I talk to you about specifically this topic? Number 2, the intent. The reason for the conversation is this. And number 3, the point. The purpose of the message is this. That structure, under pressure, allows people to assertively communicate with you and give you good information without fear. Okay? And it's really helpful under pressure to have these frameworks and use them every day. The GPS framework is goal. Our goal is, I'll make it very clear, our goal is. The problem, the thing making this difficult is, then everyone is aware of the problem. And number 3, our solution is this. Now, if you put the solution then through the OODA framework, then you're going to keep working that problem in a really powerful way. But it's very difficult under pressure for some of us who are older, and we've been through these things before. You know, we have a different outlook. But some of our younger people who are going experiencing this for the first time, they might not necessarily have these tools. And it's really important to give them the tools because it gives them confidence that they're sharing information in a way that is helping you and your business. The stick model is, for me, is really, really useful, especially on a very quick, short notice, telling everybody at the same time what the problem is by email, by WhatsApp, whatever tool you're using. Stick situation. Here, this is as a leader, this is you sharing with your team. Here is what I think we are facing. Just think we are facing. The task. Here is what I think we should do. And when you say, here is what I think we are facing, what I think we should do, you're actually opening up the conversation for other people to share what they think is going on. And I'll come to that in a second. Intent is really powerful. Intent is the why. Here is why I think we should do it. And then C is for concerns. I do have concerns. Here is what we need to keep an eye on. This is from Gary Klein, who's studied first responders and military personnel and all kinds of people who worked in very, very tight operational situations. The important thing about this model is the multiplier at the end, the feedback loop of calibrate. Talk to me. Tell me if you do not understand, can't do, or see something I have missed. So this is you as a leader explaining what you think the situation is to your team, and then allowing your team to give you feedback on what they are seeing from their part of the business, from their part of the town, from their part of the situation. It's really empowering, but it also makes them feel like you're putting people first, and people first is critical in this situation. Like I said, right back at the very first slide, people are heroes. Systems are not heroes. Software is not a hero. Okay. Your email account, your email provider will not be the hero that helps you recover. Your people will. So we come back to you. You control yourself, your rest, your sleep, what you eat, your movement, how you are in your relationships. You can influence your team. You can lead your team, but they control themselves too. What you do not control are events. So another algorithm I use is event plus response equals the outcome. Your response individually as a team to the situation at the moment is what will get you the outcome you need. Just your response. Okay. And how you respond is also this being brutally honest with the vulnerabilities in your business at the moment. Okay. Being really open about those vulnerabilities, what those vulnerabilities are. If you can reduce those vulnerabilities as much as possible, then your response will be more powerful and your risk is reduced significantly. And it still comes back to learning, anticipating, adapting. That is what makes humans, that is what makes people build cities in the desert in the middle of nowhere. That allows civilizations to expand. That allows technology. That allows us to travel. It allows hospitality to be creative and open hotels in the most inhospitable places. You know, you are the heroes of this journey that you are on right now. Okay. And it is hard, and all heroes' journeys are hard. But learning, anticipating, adapting are critical at the moment. It won't change the fact that the events and things that are out of your control will occasionally feel like they are overwhelming you, and you will overthink. You will. In that situation, if you feel that you're being overwhelmed, that life is difficult, the best thing you can do is change your state by moving. Get up and move. Get up and walk. Okay? Change your physical state. If you sit at your desk with your head in your hands, then you will see the problem as you are. If you get up and change your state, okay, you can change how you see the problem. Movement, especially, is one of the most powerful things you can do when faced with this kind of situation. It just changes your state. It changes how your brain thinks about things. And it also calms the mind. It's a really, really powerful tool. So again, the engine. If you are learning, anticipating, and adapting, you are constantly orientating to the changes in the situation with your team. Okay, when you open it up to your team, you are learning about the situation because you are seeing their perspective too. when you are communicating well with your team and using your team as the powerful, amazing, heroic humans they are, you can start to anticipate future problems and see the weak signals. Okay. To see the weak signals. The best way I could describe it is really powerful teams see the fuse burning. Okay. They see the problem coming in advance and they just avoid it completely, or they at least prepare themselves for impact. And that preparation allows you to adapt. And it's a constant cycle: learning, anticipating, adapting, learning, anticipating, adapting. Okay. If you keep doing those three things, using all of the power that humans bring to this situation, then you can achieve amazing things, even now. And you all know you already are achieving amazing things. You're here today, you are still going, and you will get through this. Okay. You will prevail. You have to stand, sit wherever you are right now, whatever the pressures you're feeling, and you have to say to yourself, we will prevail. It's an act of defiance. And when I said sleep, for example, turns despair to hope, you have to recognize that hope is the warrior's virtue. Hope is defiance. Okay. And hope is one of the most powerful things you have. But you have to activate it with yourself, within yourself, and then share it as a dealer in hope with your team. Leaders deal in hope. Always. Okay. They accept reality, but they know they will prevail. I think that's really important. I'm just looking at the time, Mona. That's my last slide.
And we have few questions for you as well, Mark. Maybe we
Okay.
can do there's a few questions here, so I will break them down. At the moment, there is a high job insecurity. From employee perspective, how to calm them down, how to communicate positively, and how to rationalize the situation. And then there is a continuity to the question, but I'll ask it afterwards. And please
But
do share your questions in the Q&A, and I think we have a good 10 minutes to attend to your questions.
there's a line that we use quite a lot, which is no one in the history of calming down has ever calmed down by being told to calm down. So how do you keep your team calm, especially in security jobs? Because there's a genuinely, and I've worked in these kind of industries myself, you do feel a level of responsibility for the people you're protecting. And so again, you have to kind of, as a leader, find the strength in yourself. But also I think sharing information and finding that clarity is really powerful. And so the structure is good. I think, most of you are probably having some kind of daily stand-up meeting at least once a day. I think in the security industry, when it's fast moving, it's important to have regular check-ins. So not just a daily start to a shift, but how you end the shift, how you end the day is really important. If you're doing handovers, those are really important too. But also in the face of something actually happening, a real-time event, you've got to just be ready to deal with it, and also be ready to deal with the aftermath. It's
There
a
is a
difficult question. Sorry, Mona,
Yeah,
you
and
carry on.
there is a continuity to it. And from a shareholder perspective, how to show shareholders the importance of holding to the existing team.
Yeah, I think again, it's communication. Being open and honest with your shareholders is really powerful. But again, you do not want to. The situation is changing constantly, and so it's really about getting the information and making good enough decisions with the information you've got. Okay, everyone is under pressure too, but you have to be able to communicate effectively. And again, it's not just that calm is contagious; it's that willingness to share your concerns, but say, this is what I'm going to do about it. So even the stick model with shareholders is really good. This is a situation, this is the task, this is my intent, these are my concerns, but opening up to the shareholders, what are you feeling? What are you seeing? At least then you start that conversation. But without that, it's about trust. What you really need to do is maintain that level of trust. Okay. and they need to know that you're working hard to keep the business going in the face of everything that's going on. Does that make sense, Mona? I know it's not an easy question to kind of.
It's not an easy question, and especially in an industry that have suffered tremendously
Yeah,
post-corona by losing
yeah,
talent. And it took us a good 5 years to actually rebuild talent and not only retain them, but acquire, bring new, fresh talent into the hospitality industry that was hit the most. So I
yeah,
don't think any of the leaders on this call would want to go into a situation where we lose again on our talent because we needed to pay the electricity bill. So yeah, it's a tough one. It's a very tough one, and I don't think there is a right or wrong answer. But I genuinely still hope that this is going to be short-lived, and we look, we all know that we're going to get over it, and we've done it before. And if somebody is my age, I have done it. This is my fourth turn, so and I hope it's going to be my last. So yeah, so lived there, been there, done that, and with every new crisis, you learn something new. I have some more questions for you, and there's a fun one, Mark. And a question to you is, have you been moving around and walking while doing the master class? There is a question about that.
I have a standing desk, so I'm stood up now.
Aha, using the
And
standing desk.
so, yeah, and I have a little balancing under my desk. I have a little balancing thing so I can try and balance to keep things moving. But I've had my
Technique.
challenges I've had challenges recently in my life, and for me, always is it's easy to sit and kind of have your head in your hands. Getting up and moving, walking. If you've got a dog, even better. But getting up and moving is changes everything. It changes your brain. It changes how you think about things. It opens up creativity, and it just allows you to keep moving forward. I think if you have some kind of movement or exercise, I say movement rather than exercise because everyone is different. Some people like the gym, some people like walking, some people like running. You find your thing, and if you can find it with a buddy, that's even better. Um,
Thank you. I have more questions for you, Mark. How to motivate staff during uncertain times as we are now facing. And I would add actually to that, especially if they are working remotely, because some are back to office work, some are working remotely. So it's a two-sided question. So what's your answer to that?
yeah, so motivation is tough. Especially under times like this, especially when the community is less. I think I've seen different things work. I think again, a daily check-in or even if it's 15 minutes is good. I think setting times tasks is good to allow people to at least feel that they're achieving a goal or moving forward. Motivation is always tough because we don't always have it. Even ourselves, we don't always have motivation. And you can sit there and say, well, discipline is stronger than motivation because discipline is get up and do the thing. Motivation is wait till you feel like doing the thing. So if you think about how do you motivate people, is how do you get somebody to feel like doing the work in this situation? That's much harder to do because you can't control how they're feeling. I think if they have that clarity, if you have clarity in standards, this is the standard I expect, and you have that clarity of what work needs to be done, what are the outputs, then that allows people to hit those outputs and be content that they've done the work. I think it's constantly changing at the moment, so the work is changing, but you've really got to be interested in sometimes changing how the work is done rather than changing the worker, if that makes sense.
Does indeed. I have
That
more
idea of,
questions for you.
sorry, Mona,
I
I
have
mean, the
more
idea of
questions for
individual
you.
plus team multiplies the system. So sometimes if the individuals are struggling or the team is struggling, a system change, it might be the most helpful thing. Sorry, Mona, carry on.
Yeah. How much are those travel-related crises impacting the interest from students and younger generation to join the industry? A beautiful question here. And before you answer, I just would say it from the eyes of someone who has been in the industry for 30 plus years. I don't think there is any other industry but hospitality and travel that teaches you and brings agility, resilience, and adaptability and adoption as natural for DNAs in every executive's life. I don't think there is any other industry but our hospitality and travel that instills these fundamental DNAs into an operating, life. So that's my 2 cents to the
Yeah.
question.
Um,
But now yours, you're the professional.
it's a great question. I love teaching on the Hospitality Business Leadership Masters at Glion. So that I teach leadership across cultures. So I think over the last 3 years, I've had students from all over the world. And in that time, I've seen the students arrive in different places. We've had students from Ukraine and students from Russia in the same class. We've had students come from all over with really challenging times at home, from all over the world. I think the enthusiasm and the passion for hospitality is still there. These are young people in their early 20s, who it's not. I think what I say to people who when I talk about this work is there's this idea that for people who aren't in the industry, they think hospitality is just hotels running a hotel. They don't see the asset management, they don't see the financing, they don't see the HR side of things, they don't see the creativity, the design, the luxury brand management. They don't see any of those things that are really fascinating. So they don't see that you can have a hugely varied career around the world in different parts of an industry. I think at the moment that the passion is there. There are different parts of the world that are finding life more difficult. I think even going back to COVID, Mona, there were certain hotels who just, at the start, certainly in Europe, who just closed and got rid of everybody. And when they reopened, no one wanted to work for them because the trust was gone. And I
Agree.
think that if I having worked in the UAE as well in the past, I think Britain at the moment is spring in Britain now. So we're just coming out of winter. So the birds are starting to sing again. The plants are starting to grow. The buds on the trees in my garden are starting to flower. The blossoms coming out. But over the winter, everything contracts and it just, not dies, but just becomes very, very controlled and composed and waits for the next move. And so it's that cycle of, like I said, platitudes aren't helpful. This is a season, and it's a hard season, and it's being ready, I think, now for what comes next. There is work that can be done now, even in the face of the most difficult, challenging times, to anticipate that it will end, and you want to be able to springboard into what comes next. I think the community is really important too. I'm looking at some of the questions that are appearing in the
Yeah,
in the
there's a
chat
few
too.
more.
I hope that's helpful. I mean, I couldn't. I'm back again in May, and there's the breadth of the students, their backgrounds. I always get them to talk about where they're from. I always get them to talk about why they're here, why they have come on this course, and what their plan is for the next 5 years, where they want to be. And there are people who want to run their own resorts. There are people who want to run their own design businesses. They've got so much ambition, and it's really, really powerful. So I don't think even for a second that they are put off by what's going on at the moment. I think you are living it, and there's no way out but through at the end of the day.
I have a question, Mark. Actually, there's quite a few questions. I don't think we'll get through them all, but in a high-pressured environment where leaders themselves are facing uncertainty, what practical strategies can help maintain genuine calm without appearing detached or dismissive of the team's stress?
Yes, that's a great question. And so,
Yes.
the line that a pilot would use is if it's a fire, if it is a fire, treat it as a fire. If it's not a fire, don't treat it as a fire. And if you look back to the movie Sully, which is about the United Airlines Miracle on the Hudson in America, from taking off on a normal day to landing in the river with 159 souls on board, and every one of them surviving, and the captain of the aircraft walking the aircraft 3 times and being the last person off that aircraft, was about 4 minutes 33 seconds from the birds impacting the engines to the plane landing in the river. 4 minutes and 33 seconds. So it's very rare, unless you're in a very time sensitive situation, that you don't have time. It feels like you don't, but frequently you do. So I say now to some of the executives I coach is, just set a time at 4 minutes 33 seconds, and you will get the clarity you need for the next step. Yes, there are breathing tools you can use. Most of us have something. When I say breathing on my 6 fundamentals, that's really about breathing through your nose and really filling up your diaphragm. If you are feeling the pressure, nearly everyone who has to perform under pressure has some kind of a ritual. So if you watch golf and you see a professional golfer before he takes a shot, there'll be a ritual. There'll be some movements he does. There'll be something he does to get himself or herself in the zone. Normally that involves planting their feet and applying the good technique, checking where their hands are, and then breathing and focusing on the ball that they're going to strike. And so the parallels are pretty clear then of even now, if you don't have a ritual for calming your mind under pressure, the simplest one is plant your feet, shoulders up as if you were getting ready for yoga or Pilates or some kind of, carrying yourself in a certain way, and then breathe long, deep inhale through the nose. What that's going to do is activate what is called your vagus nerve, which will calm your mind immediately. The vagus nerve is connected to your brain, and so I think breathing is really powerful. When we are starting to feel the pressure, we might start to just breathe through our mouth a bit more, and even just breathing through our mouth will put our heart rate up, and our heart rate goes up, and the body responds to the heart rate going up, and so we can actually create our own stress, and we can also create our own calm too. That's the whole point. I think if others around you are regulated, for want of a better word, then that makes life easier. But sometimes you've got to be the one. Everyone's looking at you. Everyone's looking at you.
I want to have one last closing question.
Sure.
Just wary of the time. Management seems to change strategy every day, which is quite confusing and puts more pressure, which changes with changes and additional work. How do we react to that?
Okay. So strategy changing every day, I would say, and I'm willing to be challenged on this, isn't strategy. Okay. That's day-to-day operations. And if you're changing your strategy at the moment, then strategy is long-term view. So that means you are kind of down on the ground, and it's easy to get fixated on what is going on. But as a CEO, for example, a senior leader, ideally your team are dealing with the operational side on the ground, and you are up and looking forward. If you imagine rising up off the ground and trying to look over the horizon, that's strategy. And I don't teach strategy, but I'm aware of it, and I've worked with it in the past. And there's different ways of thinking about it. But if you think about an aircraft flying from Dubai to London, strategy is knowing that the nose of the aircraft is not always pointing at London. Sometimes the aircraft's changed direction. It knows it's going to London, but sometimes it's pointing to Paris, or sometimes it's pointing north to avoid weather, to avoid airspace restrictions, to avoid different things. The strategy stays the same. The journey changes. And I think at the moment, it could be that you feel the need to change your strategy for the next 12 months. I would be wary of that approach. I would say this will impact things going forward quite significantly. But again, the decision is, does this change our strategy in the long run?
Apologies.
Sorry, Mona.
Sorry, Milo wanted to say hello to everybody. I apologize.
I thought that's what it was.
I put my speaker off.
Sorry, does that answer the question? Is there anything more I can add to that? I can't.
There is one closing question which I think is very relevant, and that would be the last, truly. What daily habits or routines would help leaders strengthen their ability to stay calm before a crisis even happens?
Oh, okay. I think the what I would call the AM and PM bookends is really powerful. So getting that 30 minutes, it's easier now. I know in a global world and a global workplace, you might be doing late night calls, but about half an hour before you go to bed is where you can end the day properly. And it might be a little bit of movement, a little bit of breathing. It might be turning off screens, turning off inputs for that last half an hour before you go to bed to get yourself into the space where you are. The first part of your sleep is really productive, good, powerful sleep. Then finding a way, and there are tools out there, certainly some breathing tools from yoga that if you wake in the night, that 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, when your internal radio station starts talking to you, to get back to sleep, that's another tool that's helpful. And then I think the next thing is in the morning is actually having a good morning routine is really powerful. So there's a great quote which is around the idea that if you don't have any structures, then you start the day negotiating with yourself straight away from your bed. Okay, so if you have a snooze button on your alarm clock, that's negotiating straight away. It's time to get up. Well, maybe not. Put the snooze button on. The person with a good routine doesn't have that negotiation. The alarm goes off. They plant their feet and they move, and they have things laid out as they want them. So I always used to say, and in my book I say the same, is start tomorrow today. One of the most powerful routines you can have is start tomorrow today. The day is done, end the day properly. If you have a debrief with your team before the end of the working day, one closing out 15 minutes so that what did we do well today? What needs work tomorrow? And then you know what you need to do in the morning, but also you know what you've done well. But that start tomorrow today is knowing full well these are the clothes I'm going to wear. That's structure. This is what time I'm going to get up. This is my first routine. But you started the night before. It's a really, really powerful tool. Even just laying out your clothes for the morning reduces the decision you have to make. One of the hardest things for anyone leaving the military is choosing what to wear in the morning. Okay, so you think what causes me stress is not knowing what to wear in the morning, because I used to just put on the same coloured shirt every day, same outfit every day, easy. Suddenly, what shirt, what tie, what this, what that. That's for me that causes me more stress than lots of other things. Absurd as it might sound.
Oh, very interesting. I don't think the ladies on the call would agree to that, but yes.
Okay.
Um, with that said, we just wanted to have one more mentee for the audience, and we will leave the question a little bit longer. And sorry that we ran over by 4 minutes so far, but I thought it was important to address all the questions we had on the call. So a quick mentee for you, and either scan the QR code or go to menti.com and enter 85082804. Okay. I think almost everyone who is still with us on the call has joined. Gerastine, can we go quickly to the question? So let's see. Mark, that's over to you.
Okay. I think what this tells me is, again, what I said right at the beginning, which is many of you are already doing really good, positive, powerful things. But I would also say that there are people in the group who could do with your support. And there's a community here going forward that I think with Mona and the team's help could be really powerful as you move forward through this. That the communities really matter in situations like this. And feeling like
Absolutely.
there are other people out there is really, really important. Feeling that you can share the load, feeling that it's okay to say, I'm anxious, I find this uncontrollable, I'm apprehensive. Okay, that's okay. But it's also finding someone else who goes, well, we're doing this. What is best practice? What is working for other people right now? This community is what will get you through, will lift you off at the other side, because the other side will come. We know this. Those of us who've lived a long life, a longer life than others, we know that life can be full contact sometimes. It can hit us really, really hard. And again, being a leader is a full contact experience. Okay. You are dealing with real people, real lives, real families. Okay. And that's why it's difficult, but also that knowledge that you, as a leader, your business, your organization, are supporting real families, real children, real communities is really powerful. It tells you you're doing something, it tells you it matters. And I think what Mona and the team have done here today as well really matters. If you can reach out to each other, if there's any way of you connecting and finding ways to support each other, then that's really good. I always say to somebody, if you're doing something on your own and you're struggling, find a buddy. Find someone who seems to be finding life easier. It doesn't mean that life is easier for them. It just means that they've got a tool that they might be able to share. And like I said, at any point you are feeling challenged or low, get up and move. Walk, run, find a friend, just move your body. Okay. Move along the beach, listen, get the sense, change the state, change the environment, and it will change how you think about what's going on. And then here's the deal. Every day is day one. Okay. Every day, day one, every single day. And I hate saying this, but it's true. You are never exonerated from future hard work. Okay. We're in this business to work hard for our families, for our friends, for our futures. That just means, we've got to look after ourselves and manage our own rest and manage our own sleep, manage our own movement, but keep going. Okay. Defiance. The one word I would love to see in the middle there is defiance. Quiet defiance.
Defines?
Defiance is an English word, defiance. Defiant, if that makes sense. Um, it means
I'm going to Google it.
I will. Defiant is I will.
Defined.
Defiant, yeah.
Yeah, we say in simple term, this too shall pass.
This too shall
But
pass. Yeah, that
it's
that is
heavy at the
quiet
moment.
defiance. Yeah,
It's
it
heavy.
is. It is. It
Mark,
is.
thank you so much. I hate to stop the conversation, but thank you very much for being with us today. Riman and Summit Education, you're just an amazing partner. When we want to have subject matter expertise from outside of our commercial community, we always refer to Glion and Le Roche. So thank you very much for today. I am going to have one closing, and I genuinely hope we don't see you again, Mark. Not in this context, let's put it this way, maybe for our annual conference in November, but not in
Hmm.
this context. But maybe we welcome you again next week, God forbids, for a continuity discussion and bringing the content to a wider audience as well that
Hmm.
I think would benefit. I feel personally calmer. I felt calmer from Friday talking to you. So thank you very much for today.
No, thank
And
you.
thank you to our highly engaged audience. I hope we answered most of your questions. One delegate said, I feel positive and hopeful. Stay positive and hopeful. This too shall pass, but
This too
it's
shall
heavy.
pass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it feels heavy now. Thank you very much, and hope to see you in a much more in person and in social event.
Yeah, that'll be wonderful. Look after
Yes.
yourself, everybody.
Thank you.